State Film Festival, and here with me I have Martin Zeig of the documentary Voice Messages. He is the director, writer, and producer. Martin, how are you today?
Good. And yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Martin, before I jump into asking you all the questions about what went on behind the scenes, would you like to give our live viewers a tidbit about your documentary?
Yeah, sure. It's combination of entertainment, science, sociology, biology. It's all about how we use our voice. And it's got some pretty big stars in music in it. And it's got some expert people in the field of voice aging and voice biology in it as well. So it's kind of a mixture.
And what inspired you to construct this documentary?
I think the initial inspiration happened when I was 8 years old, and I was in third grade, and I was in the school auditorium with my mother attending a concert, and this fellow student, like a sixth grader, sang the song "Without a Song," and it made me cry. And I had no idea until years later. I didn't process it at the time as a third grader, but later on, I figured out that it was the tenderness of his voice and how sweet it sounded and rich it sounded that brought me to tears. And so that was the initial impetus from way back when. And then I got to work in television for a lot of years, and I was around people with great voices. And I always seemed interested in what people's voice sounded like. So I was looking for something to do with the rest of my career, and I thought, why not do something for on a topic that I love and that I'm passionate about.
Can you tell our viewers a bit about your career, if you don't mind?
I don't mind. So I started out working in Philly. I worked for, if you probably don't go back far enough, Emily, but I worked at a UHF station, which means ultra high frequency. There was a separate dial on the TV way back when that you could dial in stations other than your three network and PBS stations. So the separate dial got you to a different group of stations, and they were kind of the lesser lights. So I started my career there, and I did a bunch of different stuff there. I was a cameraman. I was a talk show producer. I was a Philadelphia Flyers ice hockey show director, directed dance shows, all kinds of crazy under the radar type entertainment. And then I got a job with a network affiliate in Philly and worked there for a bunch of years. And then when my daughter graduated high school, decided to go to NYU in the city, I decided to try to work in New York so I could stay closer to her. And so the rest of my career, I was working in network television for all three networks, and also for freelancing for places like A&E. So I worked at 2020 at ABC. I worked for 48 Hours at CBS. Those were the biggies. I did a couple biographies for A&E, and a bunch of other stuff, all from New York. So I commuted. It was an insane commute from Philly, but I did it for 9 years
Oh, wow.
until I stopped and decided to make this film.
That's a what, like, I mean, that the amount of experience that you have is astounding.
Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff.
You're saying ultra high frequency, and you're saying this extra lever on like the side of a TV, and I'm thinking to myself, is this back when kids were the remote controls to the TVs? But that's fantastic. So with this documentary, how did you come into working with the people that you worked with on this, or
Do you mean the crew or the people that are included in the film?
both?
Well, for the crew, I hired mostly crews that I was familiar with from network television. Um, I got to know crews from all over the country. So there was quite a bit of travel involved in shooting this thing. I was in LA, London, Paris, Florida, all over the map pretty much. And so I was able to hire crews that I knew, which was great. And then the people that are in it, it just sort of happened organically. I knew that I wanted to shoot with this fantastic a cappella jazz gospel group, Take Six. I knew I wanted to shoot with them because they were my favorite singing group of all time. And I was fortunate enough to get a yes from them. And so once I started to shoot with them, other ideas started to come to me. My wife found this fantastic story while on an airplane and reading the airplane magazine, sitting in her seat. She found this story about this woman who runs an organization where you can donate your voice, and your voice gets combined with other sounds and can create a voice for someone who can't speak. So through that organization, I found a young girl who was 8 years old at the time who had a computerized voice that sounded like a 40-year-old woman. And it was just inappropriate. And she was able to get a new voice that sounded a lot more like her from this organization. So little stories like that, inspiration came from many different places.
That sounds very beautiful. I I hope you don't mind. Like I just thought, an 8-year-old and then a 4-year-old. It isn't appropriate by any means, but the idea of something like that and then someone getting to donate and whatnot. So with this, what do you want your viewers to gain from watching this documentary?
I think I'd like them to get a further appreciation of the human voice and its power and its magic and its mastery and mystery, all that stuff. The human voice is an underrated tool. How we present ourselves verbally and vocally is a big deal. And I think it's under the radar and underrated as a skill and underappreciated. So I would hope that people would become more aware of their own voices and how they use their voice. You can use your voice to do a lot of different things, as I'm sure you know. You can seduce, you can influence, you can manipulate, you can express every emotion. It's like a fine instrument that expresses a myriad of emotions. So I would hope that people get a better understanding of their own voice and how it works.
So is this your first time with the Garden State Film Festival?
It is indeed.
Wow. Thank you for entering. So how does it feel to be accepted?
Oh, it's awesome. It's it's an honor. So I'm really pleased. It's the first film festival that said yes, and I hope there's many more to come.
I'm sure there will be. I mean, the Garden State's so elated to have you. How did you find the Garden State Film Festival?
I found it through a former coworker of mine, Charlene Horn, who you may know. She and I used to work together in Philly in TV, local TV at, well, now it's the CBS affiliate. It was the NBC affiliate back in the day. So I was told that she was on the board and reached out to her.
Love Charlotte.
And yeah, and she kind of steered me in the right direction.
The right direction, absolutely. And we'll be so excited. You're saying, will you be coming to the festival in person?
I hope so. It depends on my schedule, which is not super busy, but it's busy enough with teaching. I teach at two places, Penn State and Temple in the Philly area. And so as long as I can get there without having to cancel a class, I would say I'm good to go.
And I take you teach in filmography?
Sorry?
What is it specifically that you teach?
Oh, I teach a variety of things, television production,
Okay.
filmmaking, voiceovers,
Mhm.
the history of electronic media. And currently this semester, I'm teaching public speaking. And I've become somewhat of an expert on public speaking because of this film. People assume that I know a lot about speaking in the voice
Yeah.
because I've done a lot of research on it. And so it's interesting that I've been asked to teach public speaking after all these years working in television.
You know, they say that public speaking is the number one fear above death.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's this great quote from Jerry Seinfeld where he says, "Given the choice at a funeral, I'd rather be in the casket than the one giving the eulogy." So yeah, that does speak to the fear we all have of speaking in public.
So, with the amount of experience that you have, do you have any advice that you would like to give to the filmmakers that are just starting out or maybe have, not as much experience as you have and are looking to further it?
Yeah, I think it's going to sound like a cliche, but I'm all about effort. And um, young people that I've worked with through the years, the ones that seem to make it into a successful career are the ones that hustle and the ones that have a lot of energy and the ones that are willing to give up their time and they're the ones who really want the career. I realize it can be super difficult to get into this field and super difficult to advance in this field. But I can say, as having been a boss, that the thing I'm looking for mostly from a young person is not only their intelligence and their savvy and their ability, but their energy level. So I'm all about hustling.
Absolutely. So, Martin, thank you so much for joining with me today. Everyone, you can watch the documentary Voice Messages at the Kingsley Ballroom on Saturday, March 25th from 12:30 p.m. to 2:30. Martin, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Same to you, Emily. Nice to meet you.
You as well. I hope to see you there.
Okay, same here.